I did it.
Boogie.
Yeah.
Just do it. 3 words with a period.
I know. I know.
Hey YouTube, 9th Gen SI guy here with another video for you. This video we're going to talk about the difference between coilovers and lowering springs, the advantages, disadvantages, which one's better and why. So let's get right into it. We are just leaving the car wash, so bear with me here you guys. So lowering springs, of course, you guys all know, most of you guys should know anyway, and for those of you who don't, are typically much cheaper than coilovers. The reason being is that there's not as much components. Obviously, springs are just springs, whereas coilovers have a lot more moving components, adjustability, dampeners, all that stuff. All that's included. Lowering springs are just getting a spring, so basically with lowering springs, all you're doing is dropping the car. Now that could be problematic because your car's stock dampeners basically are still going to be used with the lowering spring. So what that does is it puts more pressure on the stock dampeners that are already on the car. It may not be bad at first, but after a while it's going to be kind of problematic. I mean, what will happen after a while is the weight of the car itself will put so much weight on the dampeners because the increased pressure on the springs that you will basically wear your shocks out, your stock towers or your stock dampeners out much faster than you would if you kept the stock springs on the car. So that being said, coilovers are advantageous if you guys do have the money for them. Now, as far as lowering springs are concerned, there's a lot of cheap companies out there making lowering springs. I wouldn't go with anything but Civic or Tien. And the reason being is because they've been in the business of, suspension parts for so long. Tien more or less in coilovers. Civic makes sway bar kits, and they also make coilovers, if I'm not mistaken, for certain models and things like that. But mainly Civic is suspension, more or less sway bars, tie bars, things of that nature. Whereas Tien specializes more in aftermarket springs and coilovers. Now, the advantage to coilovers are that you get full range of adjustability. You're gonna literally replace the aftermarket dampeners or shocks that come with the car in lieu of a much more high quality set. Thus, you're going to have a better ride. You're gonna have better stability. The car feels much more controlled. You are able to adjust the lowering rate up and down anywhere you guys like it. The front lower, back lower, both level, any way you guys want it. So you are basically in control of the full adjustability of your car. Coilovers are also more advantageous because you can basically pick which kind of style of ride you want. There's a lot of cheaper coilovers that are not so much like that, but with the more expensive coilovers you can choose whether or not you want a harder ride, a softer ride, or a medium style ride, as far as your bumpiness, I guess is the word for it, your ride feel. So when you're driving down the road, if you want a stiffer setup, if you want a softer setup, or if you want it right in the middle, coilovers allow you to do that. Now, coilovers, really good coilovers, are upwards in the thousands of dollars. So that's the thing, guys. I mean, if you want, a quality ride, you're gonna have to spend the money to get that. With lowering springs, not so much. Most of those are, you can get them for $100 to $150 to $250. I believe the Civic kit for this particular car, or the 9th gens in general, is about I'm sorry you guys, about $250. Civic, I trust them as far as lowering springs. if it's just something to, either way, guys, if you lower your car, it's just one of those things where the profile of the car looks so much better. It looks so much more mean and aggressive. Whether or not coilovers or lowering springs, if you guys are on a budget, go with the lowering springs. But I strongly suggest, and this is just me, that you guys just save the extra money and get the coilovers. Why? Coilovers are better, hands down better. I mean, you're gonna have much more fun with the coilovers. You're just gonna have much more control of the ride and suspension of your vehicle with coilovers than lowering springs. Lowering springs, it's a set it and forget it. Coilovers, you can set it any way you want at any point in time. So that's the advantage of coilovers as opposed to lowering springs. Now, a lot of people will, for the meantime, just buy the lowering springs, and then later they'll buy the coilovers. But in all honesty, you could save yourself a lot of money by just saving for the coilovers and doing everything in one shot. Coilovers are also harder to install, so that is another kind of, it does take a lot longer to install coilovers. Not much longer. It's basically the same process, but coilovers have a lot more moving components. You have to make sure basically your measurements are correct. You want to measure the front struts correctly on both sides and the back struts correctly on both sides to make sure your ride height is equal all across the board. Whereas lowering springs are already set, so you set it and forget it. You don't need to worry about it as much. Now you get to pick the size of your lowering spring if you guys do go with that, but as far as that, coilover is fully adjustable, lowering spring's not. You're set.
Some what, some who, and I put it all together and sing. So I say, my sneakers more cleaner than yours, more cleaner, more cleaner than yours. I got it mastered.